one of the things we do before the big day is we have to make what we call the fossil deposits. They end up looking something like this. To make them, we use mini muffin tins as our molds for the fossil deposit. We put a layer of plaster of Paris, and we've been using this plaster of Paris, and you can get it in 8-pound buckets like this. You can get it in 1-pound containers or 25-pound containers, but we've been using just the basic plaster of Paris and kind of eyeballing the formula. It's about, it's 2 parts plaster mix, 1 part water, and we really just use like Dixie cups and just scoop them in. So we put a layer of the plaster down, and then we sprinkle in some fossilized shark's teeth. You can get them on Amazon. They come in little containers like this, or we recently got like a 2-pound bag or something. And we sprinkle those in, and we also wanted some larger fossils, something bone-like. So we do use chicken wing bones, and this year to supplement also had some chicken thigh bones. And of course those get, the meat gets boiled off and those get cleaned. It's a little labor intensive, but it's very exciting for the kids to find these bones. So we boil off the meat for a couple of hours and then let it sit in the liquid overnight, and then skim off all the meat and the cartilage and stuff. And then I reboil them because I'm OCD, and then kind of clean them off. I use like a scouring, one of those green scouring sponges, but I think probably a toothbrush would work well, or any other type of sink brush. And then I did this year for the first time, just to get them like really nice and white, let them sit in hydrogen peroxide. I didn't go get a more intense hydrogen peroxide, just over counter. I think it's 3% hydrogen peroxide. Let them kind of sit in that for about an hour, kind of rotated it like I was marinating it, and then rinsed them off. And then I let them dry out in the sun for a couple of days, or at least 1 day, just so that I could be certain that all of the moisture was out of them before putting them into the plaster molds. So we do 1 layer of plaster, then the teeth and the bones, then put another layer of plaster, then more teeth and bones, and then put a final layer. And the fossil deposits end up looking something like this on the bottom side. They very much look like the loaf pan, but on the top they're kind of textured. Now, the first year we did it, we mixed colored sand and then soil from our garden into 2 of the layers, respectively. 1 layer had sand, 1 layer had the soil from the garden. And this year we're finding we should have done that again this year. The kids are having a very hard time separating the pure plaster of Paris. It is very hard, very dense. We figured out that sometimes you can see the layers on the sides, and if they get a nail in there and start pounding, then you can pop off the layers. Or I do something that I call the teacher smash, which is me doing a big overhead downward throw onto the pavilion floor just to kind of crack it open. But I think next year we will go back to mixing something else in, so the different layers have different textures and it's easier to separate. Now, as far as what we have out at the big dig for the kids to use as tools to break open their fossil deposits that they find in the long jump sand pit, after they found their brick, then we go over to tables under the shade of the pavilion, and each group of 3 students works on 1 brick, and we give them a little box with tools, and the box is not necessary, I think it makes it easier to distribute, so that way you don't have like a big box with all these different things and you gotta go around them many times. You can just set the box, and then it gives the kids a place to return the tools to. So we've got chip brushes that we bought, dusty, we bought probably 12, 15 of them for a couple of bucks on Amazon, so each box has 2 of these-ish. We also have very cheap toothbrushes. I wouldn't recommend anyone actually trying to brush their teeth with these, but these work for the kids to kind of scrub off their fossils. Because in the next tools, we do give the kids the small kid-size safety goggles. Those have been a big hit. The kids are always very impressed when they see that they're going to get to wear safety goggles, but then quickly figure out how very hot they are. But we make them keep them on at the tables. And then we have wooden crab hammers, like for the restaurant. These worked really well last year, but this year, because of the plaster of Paris being a little bit firmer than we thought, we added into the kit small little, are these ball peen hammers? Yes, ball peen hammers that we borrowed from the iHub. They're a little bit smaller than a regular hammer, not quite as heavy, and ahead of time we remind the kids that it needs to be a tap, 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 not a ka-smash, ka-smash. And 10 penny nails. 10 penny nails? Yeah, common nails. Really big nails that aren't necessarily as sharp, especially now that they've been used, but end up being a good wedge and hammer for the kids to kind of chisel things out. So they do have the nails, the crab hammers, the ball peen hammers, and then for finer work, the 2 different brushes. And our kids just have a wonderful time smashing the plaster of Paris up into the different pieces. We do give them snack bags with their names on them so they can store their fossils. And we've found that they do a really nice job of kind of working it out within their group. Oh, well, you really want this big tooth. That's okay. You can have that one because I want these 2. They work out how they divide up their fossils pretty well. But those are the tools that we have for them to remove their fossils.